Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we have a very special program for you. Most of my co-hosts, and by most I mean all of them, are busy this week, so I brought you guys a different sort of thing. Instead of continuing our coverage of Tress of the Emerald Sea this week, I wanted to take a minute and talk about the convention, Dragonsteel Nexus. You guys have heard a little bit about from me on the show so far. But since none of the people on the show who are not allowed to be spoiled can really go to the convention very easily, I got a few other people who have experienced the convention to come and give us an idea of just all the different stuff and craziness that goes on there. So, special this week, I'm Data, and with me is...
I'm Cassie.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Jerika.
So this should be different and interesting for you guys. Hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
So lean a little on your friends, they will carry you. Shelter from the stormy nights. Lean a little on your friends, they will guide you through. You know you're gonna be alright.
So yeah, I want to give everybody, before we get into it, an idea about the convention. Because I've mentioned it a few times on the show. I went, but some of you may not be super familiar with it. This was 2025 was the 5th year, y'all?
Yeah, I think so.
It started out as Dragonsteel MiniCon, and then in 2024 they renamed it to Dragonsteel Nexus. It's not quite as mini as it used to be. And so it is a Brandon Sanderson-centered convention in Salt Lake City, although it's expanded to include a lot of other stuff. And it happened in, I think, November, the first, 3 years, and then the last couple it's been in December. But that should be kind of, if you're not familiar, that should give you enough to be going on with. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you and your experience with the con?
Yeah, so this is Cassie. I have been to Nexus twice now. I started off in the Sander fandom probably about 10 years ago. I think it was about 2015, the first time that I read a Sanderson book.
What was the first one?
The first one I read was Way of Kings.
Gold start. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to meet Brandon back then. He was doing a tour for Firefight, and I told him that Way of Kings was the first one I read, and he said, "Oh, you jumped in at the deep end," and I said, "Yeah." And it just kind of snowballed from there. Got to a point where I was buying every book as it came out, and 2024 we decided my husband and I wanted to make the trip to the convention, and I got connected with a fantastic Discord server, Sanderson Collectors Guild, where I met all of you lovely people.
Yay.
Yay.
And yeah, and things just kind of went on from there, and now I'm on social media as frugal.fantasy and manage the Dragonsteel Nexus subreddit and handle World Swappers with Jerika over here.
Woo.
Yeah, you had a very cool series after the convention about how I got to Dragonsteel Nexus for no money.
Yes. Yeah, lots of travel hacking tips. If you need them, come talk to me.
I'm gonna have to tune into that because that's our next thing. Trying to get to Nexus on any way we can.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So I'm Sam. I have been to Nexus the last 2 years. I'm actually an audiobook listener, so seeing some of the names on script has been interesting. But I started listening to Brandon, or I guess to everything in 21 or maybe the end of 2020 during COVID when everything had shut down. And my husband was like, "You can't go anywhere. You might as well dip into Brandon." And he was already into Stormlight, had read Mistborn years and years prior. So I was ways behind him. But as soon as he got me into Mistborn, I just got sucked in. And When we found out there was the Kickstarter for the Way of Kings for the Leatherbound, we were so disappointed. And then from then on, we're very in tune to anything and everything that came out that that Brandon was putting out through Kickstarter, backer kit, everything. So then, of course, we had to be at Dragonsteel as soon as we could, which just ended up being 2024.
Nice. I like that he used the pandemic as an excuse. Like, hey, what a great time it would be for you to read this stuff.
Yeah, something funny actually is we had the paperback of Mistborn. I remember distinctly after we were married, I found a paperback of Mistborn, and I thought that it was a man's romance novel because it had a girl on the cover, and totally was thrown off. Was eventually like, can we just get rid of this when we were moving between houses and whatever? And then when he got me into it, I was like, wait, this was the book that you had a long time ago. And he goes, yeah, you weren't ready. And I was like, I wasn't ready, but now I am. So dove right in.
I love it. He knew it. He's like, yeah, you weren't ready.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm Jerika. I'm Cosmere Carmen on Instagram. Well, Carmen San Diego. I've been going to the convention since I think 2022. So I guess this would have been my third time going. And my husband also introduced me to Sanderson. I don't know when exactly, maybe like 2018 or so. He read Warbreaker aloud to me, and that's how I was introduced to it. And I am now in way deeper than he is. I couldn't tell you the last time he bought anything Sanderson related because I just, dive in and buy all the things as soon as they come out. And now I am, like Cassie said, one of the founders and admins of World Swappers. And I really like to craft, and I've been having fun crafting different Cosmere Sanderson related projects lately, which has been fun.
Ooh, crafting fun.
Mm-hmm.
You inspire me with some of your crafts.
I know, right?
That is the truth.
I wish I could craft things. I'm not good at that.
You just have to find the right craft. Let me tell you, there are many of them, and my craft room closet is full of many different ones. I don't go super deep on any of them, just a little sprinkling.
Yeah, my version of crafting is here's a box of Legos and the instructions for exactly how to do it. Follow the instructions and do nothing else.
Yeah, I'm good with instructions. Yeah, that's a good point. All those Legos always seem just a little bit fiddly for me, where I'm like, You said your first year you think it's 2022. What year was? Which book was that? Do you remember?
Ooh, 22.
I think it was it was either Lost Metal or Defiant. I don't remember. I've been to both of those. I don't remember which one was first.
I bet that was Defiant because I think Lost Metal was the next year. I remember we got each other Lost Metal for Christmas the year that it came out, and I think that was 2023.
Okay.
I think Lost Metal. Now I gotta look it up. I feel like Lost Metal was before Defiant, but let me look now.
Yeah, because I guess Rhythm of War would have been 21.
Lost Metal came out November 2022.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
And Defiant was gotta be the next 2023. So that was Lost Metal was my first year. That's when they did the Wayne hat hunt as the con game.
Right.
I've heard about that.
But I missed the Defiant year. I was not able to make it. So this was also my third year going because I skipped one in the middle. Yeah, because this year was the Taylor Realities. Yeah, no, that's 3. I can count.
We read, we don't do math.
Math numbers. Who needs them? Right?
Look,
people out there.
You start forgetting how much you've invested into the Cosmere and all of the merch and everything when you start backing backer kit and all the Kickstarters. Then it just kind of goes out the window. So you just forget to count from then on.
You don't want to count because you know what the
No.
result's going to be.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I had to I had to build a spreadsheet with what I bought things for and how much they are valued because I have an insurance policy on my books. Yeah, doing that math was an experience.
I know the Sanderson Collectors Guild website will give you an estimate after you put your collection in. So
Yes,
Oh,
that was a
nice.
very helpful way to get started.
yeah. You just love spreadsheets? Did you also do you also did the spreadsheet on the subreddit for like, here's the
Mhm.
schedule in spreadsheet format. I remember that.
Yes. Oh,
Yes,
yes.
Cassie's spreadsheet queen.
That was so
I
helpful.
I do love spreadsheets. I'm glad that it was a helpful resource because, you know, I I appreciate that all the information was in app format this year, but I really just needed a
Mhm.
different visual, and the spreadsheet was helpful for me, and I'm glad that other people enjoyed it too.
Yeah, that was one of the changes this year was they added the app, which
Hmm.
very useful in a lot of ways, I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's get into talking about some of the things that happen at the convention. The first topic that I have on here is panels, and I don't know if you guys are anything like me, but I always have like before the convention starts, I'm like, "Oh, I want to go to all of these panels." And then I managed to make it to like 2 over the it is a 3-day convention that it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It used to be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday or something. So, did you guys manage to make any panels this year, or is that you completely ignore those and have other more important things to do?
This year, I made it to 2 panels. I spent
Nice.
this year actually chasing signatures, but the
Mhm.
2 that we made it to one of the mental health panels, which my husband is very passionate about, and appreciates Brandon's passion for the mental health. And then I also made it to like a Scadrial Cosmere preview or guessing at what's coming up in the future, which I thought was very interesting. So
Oh, that does sound fun. What was that like?
it was really cool because they obviously the panelists, they know so much. They have either been a part of, I think some of them were in our collectors guild, some of them were founders of the 17th Shard,
Mhm.
some of them were part of Coppermind, so they knew everything in such intimate detail, and I was like, what? Oh, I didn't catch that. Oh, that was a connection. I totally missed that too. Or maybe I caught something but didn't quite know what the connection was. And so they pieced together a lot of different things for me, which I think for those types of panels, it's very, very special because then you're like even deeper into the lore and you just brain boggling. Brain brain boggling? That's not the right word. Mind
Mind-boggling.
boggling.
There you go.
Yeah.
Totally works. Yeah,
Either way,
those folks at the 17th Shard are incredible. The amount of knowledge they retain and the theory crafting that they do
Oh yeah.
is fantastic. I'm here for the vibes. I can't do that. But I appreciate the folks who do because I love to read their theories.
Mhm.
I don't catch a lot of stuff, so I appreciate that too.
that was one of the panels that I had on my list, like Ghost Blood's Mistborn Era 3 theorizing, and I was like, that those deep lore like that, and there was like the dragons of the Cosmere, and
Mhm.
these ones that are all full of all this sort of lore are exactly the kind of things that I'm like, oh, I really want to go to that, and then I end up not making. So
There's always so many things to do.
Mhm.
yeah, and that's the big thing that I want, especially people to understand if you've never been, is it seems like it shouldn't be that big of a thing because it's like it's a Brandon Sanderson convention. Sure, he writes a million books, but he's just one guy. He can't be everywhere. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
how much can really be going on at a convention that is centered around his stuff? The answer is it's a lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What
Everywhere
is it,
you look.
like six panel rooms, I think, plus crafts rooms and game rooms and the hall. It's quite a
Oh,
bit.
Let's see. Yeah,
yeah, I really don't spend very much time at panels. I always put a bunch on my list, but the last year or so, it's definitely been well, I'll put things there so that if I'm just bored, then I will have already looked at the options. I think this year we went to the welcome ceremony and the first part of the release party, and that was it.
Yeah, I didn't make it to a single one.
I've never actually done the welcome ceremony. Because it always feels like, that's not that's just whatever. What is that
Mhm.
like?
Um, I mean, we also left early this time, I think. But they'll do like a little, introduction really quick, and then it's last year that was when they started the Fanderlanch idea, and so they had their little like Minute to Win It, Sanderson related games. So I think they did a little bit of that this year as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I've never managed to catch any of the Vanderlanche stuff these last 2 years, although it does sound cool.
I think I tried last year and I couldn't keep up. I was like, I don't even know. How do these people know these things?
Oh, I'm not surprised that Cassie, you said you didn't manage to make any. She didn't mention earlier, but she was a squire this year,
Mhm.
so I'm sure that
Mhm.
keeps you busy, even if you weren't running other stuff on the side.
Yeah, it did, because, well, we'll get more into the details of squiring later, but there are minimum requirements for how much you have to work each day, and that means when you're free, you're trying really hard to get other things done, and so,
Mhm.
unfortunately, sitting in panels was not something that I was able to prioritize this time.
Sometimes they record the panels too. You can go back and
They
watch them.
do.
Yeah, they've
That's true.
released several on YouTube, yes.
I've been meaning to go and look and see what all is out there, and I never remember to do this. I think I only made it to a couple of panels this year. I went to the Dungeon Crawler Carl one, which was a lot of fun
Oh, yeah?
because they had Jeff Hayes read a large segment from the upcoming book.
Something he had never seen before.
Yep, it was great.
It looked great. That was one that I managed to find a clip of. He's so talented.
It's really
It was impressive.
impressive. Yeah, I can't even. I'm jealous of Sam, who's like, yeah, I do audiobooks. I can't do audiobooks. Like after 5 minutes, I find myself distracted and missing
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I have to actually read. But sometimes, like with Dungeon Crawler Carl and the Dresden Files, I wish I could.
I have always been the same way. I have always said I don't enjoy audiobooks, but I have found a couple of narrators that I really enjoy, and Jeff Hayes is one of them, and Ray Porter is another. And he does a lot of Andy Weir's books, and he did the
Ah,
Bobiverse, and I have managed to listen to a number of those. He does a great job.
just read the
I
Bobbyverse books. Hmm.
I definitely put myself in the characters, so that keeps my attention, and then I like to listen to them when I'm, like, on runs or I have a
Mhm.
45-minute drive to and from work, so putting an audiobook on to distract me is usually
Perfect.
my go-to.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I always listen like while doing the dishes or while driving or something. While crafting, actually, I do that a lot.
Oh, that makes
There you
sense.
go.
Yeah, good combo. Well, while you're on the subject, why don't you tell us a little bit about being a squire?
Sure. Oh gosh, where do we even start with that? The application process is wide open. They'll make an announcement, Dragonsteel does, in the spring. I think we actually looked it up the other day, and they announced them March 6th last year. So it's probably
That's not far off from when we're recording this. Yeah.
it's probably coming up. Yeah, it's probably coming soon. You do have to be kind of on top of it. It's open for about a month, and you just submit an application and you sit back and wait. And I actually got rejected the first time. Yeah. So, in that initial application, they sent me the, Dear John letter and said, "Nope, sorry, you haven't been selected." And then it was August, like late summer. I got a phone call out of the blue saying, "Hey, do you still want to be a squire? There's a position that Dragonsteel would like to hire you for." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure."
So did someone drop out, or were they just like, "Oh, that's Cassie. We like her."
My understanding is that it was a role that wasn't initially in the planning, and
Ah.
they added a role with two positions, and I got selected along with another person who was fantastic to work with.
Nice. For anyone out there who may not be aware, if you've been to fan conventions, generally the people working at the convention are mostly volunteers, and
Mhm.
different conventions call them different things. But this year, at least, I don't remember if it was in previous years since I've never been a squire. But this year, at least, it was like you guys were like temp employees, not volunteers, right?
Correct. Everybody did get paid. It's not a huge amount, but everybody does get paid, and they were paid in 2024 as well. I can't speak to anything before that.
Okay.
But yeah, temporary employees, and you just fill out all your paperwork and sign your NDA and sit back and wait. So,
Do you like, how many different places are you working? Like, I think I saw you at the ball, but then you were, like, all over, weren't you?
well, as far as squiring was concerned, I was specifically working the ball. So I was at every ball session and I was there for a dress rehearsal, which ended up being more of a setup session. But it was I was exclusively working the ball. Now, depending on what team you are hired onto, because there are many different teams working the event, you might be a floater, you might be working in the store, and there are multiple positions in the store. You might be helping with line control. That's the Sentinel team, and they're all over the place. So, when you say I was everywhere, I kind of was, but it's because I was trying to cram a lot of stuff into the daytime because in the evening I was in the ballroom for pretty much 8 hours straight.
Oof.
Yeah.
I don't envy the line control folks. That's a thankless job right there. A bunch
Yes,
of
it
pissed off
is.
people all the time.
But we appreciate them because, my goodness, if lines were left to form organically, it would be quite a hassle.
I mean, it was bad as is. I can't imagine with like less people trying to keep things straight.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, much better this year than last year. I feel like
100%.
definite improvements.
That's
I
good.
agree.
Last year, especially the con game stuff with the stamps, it was like you've got lines
Mhm.
forming in front of everybody, like blocking booths all over the floor, and nobody was happy about that.
Speaking of
Mhm.
which, shout out to the fact that they got much larger space in there. The aisles were so nice and wide in the
Oh
Mhm.
vendor
yes,
hall. It was
it felt
so
so
nice.
claustrophobic last year, and I mean, when I went in 2022, I guess the vendor hall was a much smaller number of people. It wasn't that big an area. It's like you can do a circuit pretty quick.
hmm
But in 2024, there was a lot of people and there was not much room.
Yeah, I think best estimate is that there were around 10,000 guests this year, 10,000 per day. It's a lot of people,
Yeah.
Well, and
a lot of support, a lot of
I was gonna
vendors.
say vendors. That's the word I was looking for. I was like
Mm.
exhibitors. That's not the word I'm looking for. Vendors. Yeah,
I definitely
they have some very
missed
cool
some
stuff
of
there.
it. There was one vendor, I think, that had like a weighted dragon, and I was like, totally missed that. There's so many things to see.
Mm.
You're always gonna miss something.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no way to see it all. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how well you can make plans,
Mhm.
you're going to miss something, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's true. You can't do all the things, sadly. I mean, that's clear just from when we were talking about panels earlier, is because yeah, they have at least 3 large panel halls going at all times and cool stuff happening everywhere. So, and that's on top of all of they've got the exhibitor, they got the vendors, they've got the
Mm.
con game going on at all times.
Mhm.
There's a giant game room. I don't know, did any of you guys
Yes.
make it to the game room?
We
No.
did.
Yeah.
We
Mhm.
did the D&D Epic or, the Cosmere Epic.
Oh,
Mhm.
nice.
Nice. We wanted to do that, but I think it conflicted with our ball session.
We planned our ball session based on that.
Nice.
Smart.
We went to their little one shot, their Stormlight one shot, and then we also actually went later, just kind of on the last day. We had more time, and we just kind of played some games with friends for like an hour. That was really nice.
Oh, that is cool. I thought about signing up to DM the one of the things at the tables at the Epic thing, but I was just
Mm.
like, my wife doesn't play that sort of tabletop game, and you sign up for like a 6-hour session or something
Yeah.
to play, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to leave her alone for 6 hours that day. That seems
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
a long
mean.
time.
It was yeah, I think it was 4 when you include lineup, and they scripted everything. Like, there wasn't really a whole lot of, time for the DM to really ad lib and a whole lot.
Huh.
Mm.
So, it was like there were points where we didn't even finish the session or whatever, the little mini session. They told us, "You have to move on."
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
That's I was kind of sad afterwards because we found out they were handing out the Shalosh pins to people who went, and I've been
I
trying every
know.
year that I've
Oh.
gone to get one of those, and I have not. So
Aw.
And it was because they had changed it, I think. Now it's the, Wayne
Wayne,
pin.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
I still like the look of the Schloss one better, but
Yeah.
yes, a lot of people were ready for there to be a change. They're like, I already have this one. Get me a different one.
Yeah, because Shalash had been the pin for about 3 years, or at least this was the third Nexus.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I get that people already have it. It's time for a change, but I don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
No.
My wife and I both love board games, and so we spend a decent amount of time in the game area, and they do several tournaments that Brotherwise sets up where you can play. We demoed the Shards of Creation game. We actually demoed it last year
Ooh.
too, but we demoed it this year when they added art
What'd you
this
think?
year. And the cards, very cool game. We did the Mistborn deck building game tournament. We also did. They have a game. It's like Mario Kart, the board game, basically, but it's called Dungeon Kart.
Oh
I
yeah.
saw that, and they were giving away copies of that, which was so
Well-
cool.
Were they really?
They did. They there was a tournament, and
Yep.
the winners got to take a copy of that home, and it looks like such a fun game.
There was the thing about it is, so the tournaments all have limited, and for anyone who hasn't been, at least the last couple of years, they've worked hard to make everything that's limited. You can sign up through the same website you're registering for the convention, so it's like a one-stop shop. You go and you say, I want to sign up for this signing, for this tournament, for this whatever. And so we got signed up for several tournaments. But the thing is, a bunch of people sign up and then they get busy. They don't show up for the tournament session that they scheduled.
Yeah.
So only like half of the people that were supposed to be there for the Mistborn deck building tournament actually showed up. And even fewer, they set up like 4 tables of 6 people each for the Dungeon Kart tournament. And I think only 6 people ended up showing up.
Wow.
And they were handing out full copies of this game, a very large game, for the top 3 people.
Whoa.
And so half of
Yeah.
the people who showed up got a copy of the game. So
That's really cool.
I managed to get first place in that and got a copy of the game to take home. It was
Oh,
very cool.
congrats.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
So yeah, if anybody out there goes to this and wants to sign up for one of those tournaments, do it. And if you don't manage to get signed up, show up at the time and be like, hey, is there empty space? Because the last 2 years when we've done this, there's always been empty space that people didn't show up for. So
See, like we said, there's just so much to do that you have.
Yeah.
Your plans will change on the fly, and that's what we see happening there.
I will say that was something that we noticed with the a lot of the signings too that you could sign up for. They would be done like half an hour into the signings, and they had the signing for a full hour. And so they were just grabbing whoever was standing around and saying, "Hey, if you have a book and you want this signed, come see it." I think the biggest exceptions were Isaac,
Mm.
because he takes a lot of time. He really likes connecting with the people that are coming to get signatures.
Oh.
So he did not have the time. And then, of course, you have to have a signing selection for Brandon.
Right.
So, like, but everybody else, like Dan Wells, Dan DeSantos, the author of Dungeon Crawler, he
Matt
had
Dinniman,
spots. Yeah, Christopher Polini, when he had a signing with Dragonsteel, not at the booth, but with Dragonsteel, they were just letting people in. So, like, it's always worth trying to go and hit those spots if you have time and see like if you can get in, because you actually just might luck out.
So do you know if that was because were people who signed up, because some of these, and signings is the next thing I had to talk about, so perfect transition you made for us. But some of these signings, the slots went extremely fast when they went up on the website. So were people just not showing up for their signings, or were the authors like getting through them so quickly that there was extra?
Think a lot of them were getting through it so quickly, because I feel like the lines would fill up the full length of the shoot. But I'm not really one to sit there and talk to an author. Like, I love listening to them, but I go, starstruck, I guess, once I get up. So I don't have a whole lot of questions. Like, my husband's like, you got to think of a good question for Brandon. And I went, I have nothing. My brain is empty. So I think they might anticipate, 10 seconds a person, but in reality, maybe it only takes 3 seconds a person. And so even taking only, 3-4 seconds for half of the people, you still have a considerable amount of time left. So I think it might be a combination of over anticipating, and then also maybe some people just don't show.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know. I went to all my signings. So.
As you should.
Yeah, I find it hard to any level of celebrity. It's just like small talk is weird to in it's especially in that situation. Like I went to a convention and I got a signing with Alan Tudyk from all sorts of
Nice.
things at this point.
No
But
way.
I had him sign my Firefly comic book that had his face on the cover, and I was even wearing like a shirt that was like a wash from Firefly shirt. And he was like
Yes.
the sweetest guy. He's like, "Oh, hey, look at it's me on the shirt." I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, I don't know what to try to small talk here. So I was polite and I was like, "Thank you so much. I appreciate this." And I moved on because like
Yeah.
what am I gonna yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you say?
Yeah, Dan DeSantos, he was telling me a story, and so I actually have a picture of myself just like intently listening, but I had nothing. There was nothing in my head to ask. Dan Wells was saying that there was nothing in my head to ask. So I just kept going. I think if you get it, you almost have to pre-plan. Like if you come up with something, write it down in a notes, and that way you can come back to it as you're in line. That way you have something ready and you're not trying to think on the fly or,
Mm.
right in the
Mhm.
moment.
So, okay, give us a little more about what you did as far as you're focusing on signatures. You went into the convention and be like, I want to get stuff signed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, how did you approach that? Like signing up for signings or finding people, and who all did you end up getting?
Okay, so the way signings worked this year, and I can only speak to this year because I did not try, or I guess last year, I did not try in 2024. But the way signings worked is for everyone that they had a spot for signings with Dragonsteel, they dropped it at the same time as they released the entire schedule. So you had to be quick to
Mhm.
get everything that you wanted. I was fortunate enough that I was able to get first time through Christopher Polini, Dan DeSantos, I got Dan Wells, but I think they dropped Dan and Isaac a little later, but I also got them too. And then I also I also had Brandon. I had been selected. So with Brandon, you are automatically entered in to get a signing with him, and you can either get a lightning signing where you only get the one item and you get no time to chat with him, or you get a conventional signing where you can have, I think it's 3 items and one can be personalized, and then you get to ask him, you get to have some rapport with him, which was really cool. And I was back and forth until I got the Brandon signing. Once I got the Brandon signing, it solidified that my convention was going to be spent getting signatures on every book that I could. So my husband ended up limiting me because I was like, "Oh, I want this sign and I want that sign." He's like, "Okay, you can only have 5 books." And so my approach then became, what 5 books do I get signed, and what 5 books were going to have the most amount of people at the convention that were going to be available to sign my books. So I knew, let's see, I brought Warbreaker because I knew Dan DeSantos, Dan Wells, Isaac Stewart, and Brandon would all be there. And then there was some of the art team that I had seen were going to be there at the art booth. So they signed it. And then Mistborn being my favorite, I had book 1 of Mistborn signed by Brandon, by Isaac, and then I actually had Dan Wells sign the maps because he was telling me a story about how he and Isaac were going back and forth on some of the maps within the different books,
Oh, neat.
like who had the better map. And then, of course, with the RPG having come out this year, I was chasing hard signatures that
Wow.
I knew, yeah, that I knew would be RPG people. So again, Dan Wells, Isaac Stewart, I had Brandon sign it. And then I went and I stalked the Brotherwise booth when I knew that those guys were going to be there and got as many as I could. But again, I went going in, okay, nothing else matters except getting signatures. So it's the whole like, okay, you got to kind of pick what your win is for the convention, and that was just where I was gonna head. So yeah, it was quite an experience.
Nice. I can understand why the Brandon thing, you're like, okay, well, I got the white whale of this convention, so I may as well go all. I've been it's always as long as I've been going, it's been a random draw for the Brandon signings, and 3 years in, I have never gotten a single one. So
Oh,
someday.
someday.
Someday you get there, you will.
Somehow we've been twice, and my husband has gotten a signing both times, and I haven't gotten
Wow.
one yet. Yeah.
Do you get to like go along and stand next to him, or?
No, I mean, last year, 2024, he only had a lightning signing, so no, that was just one
Mm.
person.
Mhm.
He had a traditional in 2025, and I maybe could have gone with him for that, but I was in the ballroom, so I didn't get to.
They wouldn't let my husband go with me, and I had a traditional, but I was hoping that they would let it slide, and I think they had in 2024, but they were pretty strict on it. And I was like, he doesn't even have any books. I have all the books. I have the question. I just want him to be in the picture with me.
Mm.
And they were pretty strict, which I understand. Like
Yeah.
I don't hold that against them, but I was like, oh, bummer.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're crossing our fingers for Jordan Con here in a couple of months.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think they really guard Brandon's time carefully at those things. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Nexus is his home convention. He's
Right.
in charge. He's got a million places to be. You know, when he's a guest, who knows? Maybe there's a little more flexibility.
Mm.
Well, and they pulled him away for like his what 10,000th or 100,000th
Oh yeah, I saw the video.
person
Yeah.
who bought his
I
book.
think it was the 500,000th. Like it was
Oh, was it? Yeah.
it was a crazy high number.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, he was in the middle of doing a traditional signing, I think, and they had to pull him away from the whole signing, walk him over to the booth. He got to, you saw there's a clip of it where
Mhm.
he was talking to the girl, I think, and signed her book and everything, and then walked back to the traditional. So it got delayed a little bit, but it was pretty interesting to see all that happen.
Cool for that person though.
It was a cute little clip where she was
Yeah.
like, they're like, you're the 500,000th or whatever, and she's like, I was buying these for my son. Can I like go get my son?
She wasn't even the fan. It was a present.
Of course.
Classic. The one good thing about it being Brandon's convention and everyone going for a signature is they are very specific about, if you get this signing, this is how many things you can get signed.
Yes.
Whereas it was if you got somebody else's signing, it was kind of the Wild West, where it was like,
It was.
how many books do you think they'll sign? I don't know. We have no idea until we get there. So I hope you didn't travel like 1,000 miles and bring 10 books and he'll sign one.
Mhm.
And I think they were very lenient. If you, like I said, sometimes the lines would shorten up, so you could kind of go into the line twice. I actually did that with Isaac, where I got stuff signed and then got in line for Danwell's. I knew it was going to be one of the numbered copies of the Else Caller. And so I was like, oh, I want to get him to match the number, or I want to get Isaac to match the number once I'm done with Dan. And so, like, I jumped out, and Isaac was trying to finish a lightning signing. And I went, all I need is the number. You've already signed this book. All I need is the number. And he like put the number in and then, went on his way. But like it just spoke to how very down to earth they are, how very like about their fans they are. It was a really cool experience.
That's
Nice.
cool. We had a good experience with Isaac in particular too, with our signing with him, and just chatting it
he's pretty
up and
great.
telling us random little quotes from the book and the background of it. It was pretty fun. We also got a lot in the exhibitor hall, so I think we
Yeah.
did have one or two signings that we like had tickets for on the last day and ended up dropping them Friday night because we had found them in the exhibitor hall and got stuff signed there, and that was really nice.
Yeah, I was worried about that because one of the I had two people who I was going for signings for. One was Matt Tinneman because I wanted to get my I managed to get a hold of a first edition, first printing of the first Dungeon Crawler Carl book, which is
Nice.
freaking crazy hard to get. So I got him. I was like, I have to get him to sign this. And the other one was Dan Dos Santos because I wanted to get my Herald cards from last year's con game signed, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
did Shalash, and I think he had two of them. I don't remember the other one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I had him signed too, but I can't. I think maybe it was Ishar.
But yeah, Dan Dos Santos was gone like instantly when the signing stuff went up, and so I was like, "Oh crap, am I not going to get it?" But then he was at his booth multiple times and on the floor, so I managed to get it pretty easily there. That was nice.
Just goes to show if you don't manage to get the signing ticket, don't lose all hope. There might be
Yeah.
other
Absolutely.
options.
A lot of them are, and that came up a bunch in like Cassie mentioned. She and I are both moderators for the Nexus subreddit,
Mhm.
so a lot of questions about that leading up to Nexus. Like, how many books can I get signed? Will they be somewhere other than the signing? And it was like, we don't know for sure, but given what we've seen in the past, almost certainly you will be able to find them at some point at some booth.
Yeah.
Other than Brandon, obviously, which is
And if they don't have their own booth, they will often be at like a publisher's booth.
yeah, like Grim Oak had a bunch of people at
Yeah.
theirs this year.
Like
actually
Paulini
have a
didn't have
schedule.
his own booth, but he was at Grim Oak multiple times.
And I managed to hunt down. I got Dan to sign his heralds, and I found who else? Who else was there that did those? Oh,
Did you go to Miranda Meeks?
No,
I had
Hold
her
on.
sign hers last year in 2024.
Yeah.
No, who is it? It was card number 8. Shoot, what's his name?
Hold on, not
I got
with
it
the Herald
signed.
print.
I met him.
Howard Lyon is the name I was trying to think of just now.
Oh yeah, Howard.
I got him at his booth. I got all the Herald cards last year. He's the only person that I got him to sign my like foil Yezrian last year. And then only after that did I realize, oh, he also did like Vedelev or whatever. So I had to go back and find him again so he could sign the other one.
When I was looking at signatures and trying to like really navigate the best plan of attack, this is a shameless plug. I use Monday, monday.com, and they actually have like a board system to where I was able to list all of my authors and then link it to another board that had all of the books. That way I can check things off in real time for myself.
Nice.
So it was a
so
super
much.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh man, I almost did an Excel, but I was like, man, I need this in a slightly different format so that way they're together and my work uses Monday. And I was like, this is easy. Okay. So I spent like my husband laughed at me. I spent a whole evening and then was so happy. My organizational heart was like, okay, now it's linked and now I can go and check things off. And I really think I only missed Miranda because she was charging for signatures, which I get, but I was like, I have so many other things I need to put that money towards.
Sure.
But I think that was the only one I didn't get. Maybe one other signature from Isaac, but I had so many other things to have Isaac sign.
Yeah, I've got the foil Roshar map, which I've always felt like that would be a cool thing to get signed, but I don't. They're so rare that I don't want to move it that far.
I'm actually taking mine to JordanCon.
Ooh,
Are you?
I am. I gotta take it to, I gotta take it to Hobby Lobby and I gotta get them to take it back out of the frame. And then I talked to Isaac about it at Nexus. I was like, look, I wanted to bring it last year and I didn't. But if I were to bring this thing, would you be okay with that? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. It's like, okay. So I have to get my foil map off the wall and carefully transport it to Atlanta, which we're going to be driving. So it's a whole lot easier than Nexus where we can fly.
More control over it for sure than
And maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to get Brandon to sign it too.
That would be amazing.
I'm hoping. Follow up with me at the end of April.
The next thing that I have that I want to talk about is, once again, for people listening who are not familiar with the con, every year they have a con game, which often involves hunting down something or other. Like in 2022, you were looking for hidden hats around the exhibit hall, and it's a way to get people to explore the convention space, to meet exhibitors and artists and stuff they might not otherwise interact with, just to like get you to go out and do things, talk to other people. And it has gotten more complex, I feel like, as the years have gone by, although this year was probably the most complex that I have seen it. They really put a whole lot of work into it this year. But did any of you guys work on the con game this year?
Absolutely. That was my big thing.
Jerika, tell us about it.
Yeah, I was about to say this. I guess once more to give a rundown because it was so complicated. This year they split everybody up into 4 different groups. You had to sign up ahead of time if you wanted Roshar or Scadrial or Nalthus or Cell, and they hinted that like you'd have to work together with people in other ones. We had a group of 4 going, so we each picked a different one.
Nice.
And so you had a different book with a different story in it that you had to try to complete. It was an improvement over last year when everybody was working on these same things at the same time, and the lines were just insanity. The lines were still kind of insane to turn things in this year, but not as bad. So yeah, what was your experience with the con game this year, Jerika?
Well, I should say it was my one thing, but like asterisks, because my one really big thing was World Swappers, which did kind of divide my time a little bit.
That
So
took a
my
lot of
husband-
time for you,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So my husband was awesome, and he would take my booklet for me and go run and get stamps and stuff. But in this booklet, there were like logic puzzle kind of things that you had to solve, which I enjoy doing. And you would like solve them, and that would give you a hint on where you needed to go in the convention center to find maybe there was a poster on the wall or something. You had to decode the secret message. And what I did really like to help with line management, not only did they divide up, the whole convention into really 4 different groups of lines, but then also as you turn stuff in, there were little booths throughout the convention center. Depending on where you were at in the story, you could turn stuff in at these various booths.
Yeah, that was a big help. The little booths usually had a much smaller line than the big turn-in spots.
Yes. And you would turn them in and just show like, hey, look, I solved this little logic puzzle. And you were collecting little tokens that represented different forms of investiture or invested items through the Cosmere. I won't go too far because I don't want to spoil for your podcast. But it was really fun. And it was really cool that they had the different tracks. So I was Nalthus, and my husband, I believe, had Cell. Now I don't remember because he changed what he was originally thinking. Anyway, and so like maybe I had this kind of puzzle on the day 2, and he had that kind of puzzle on day 1, but it wasn't identical. But you could help each other if you were stuck on how to solve the puzzle. And that was really nice. That was cool. So we could kind of work together that way. And then at the very end, you really did need to find somebody from each of the 4 tracks and piece them all together to like turn it in for the final. And it was cool to be a part of a story like that, because the whole little booklet that you were working in was telling an overarching world hoppery story, and then you like come together at the end for the final confrontation or whatever. But it definitely took some time of solving the puzzles, going to the booths, waiting in line, doing your little interaction encounter thing there. But I did also like that we could do, and we did most of the puzzles like in the morning when we were waiting for the exhibitor hall to open, and we were just waiting in line, or that night back to our hotel room. And so you could kind of work at it where you wanted, when you wanted to. That was nice.
Yeah, stuff like the logic puzzle you could do. I think I did mine before the convention even started, because you get the booklet when you went and got your bag of stuff. But that was very nice. I agree. Oh, you brought it up. I guess I should have mentioned to you guys before we started that the podcast is spoilers up until the point that the newbies on the show have read. So it hasn't come up yet, but we've read everything except for the last 2 Stormlight books and the secret projects at this point. So feel free to have spoilers for any of that other stuff, just not, Rhythm of War, Wind and Truth, and the secret projects. But really should have established that up front, but it's fine. It didn't come up.
It's all good. I started talking about it, and then I was like, wait, I know what this podcast is about. I need to be careful what I say, but I wasn't sure where you were at, so that's good.
We've gotten most of it at this point. So what did you think versus previous years of Con Game? Did you participate in the other years that you went?
I did. I really liked this one, both for logistic reasons, but also for the story of the game. They use that tagline all over, be a part of the story, and I did feel more a part of the story this time than previous years. I also felt like, even though there was a lot to it and it was complicated, I felt like it didn't take as much of my time. I feel like usually the con game is so involved that I tend to miss out on the con because I'm doing the con game, because I'm also doing something else like getting signatures, and it's just not enough time to get signatures and do the con game and actually attend panels or whatever else you may want to do. So I did like that about this one. I think I wish that it had been just a little bit less time involved, but that's also because I was trying to get some signatures and do world swappers. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went in 2022 thinking like, "Oh, this is gonna be is there gonna be enough stuff to keep us busy for 3 days?" And
Yeah.
then literally ended up missing several panels because we were so obsessed with the con game and trying to hunt down
Mhm.
the hats and stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's weirdly
I
all encompassing.
I didn't participate as much with the con game this year. I went in thinking, okay, again, I'm going for signatures, not for not con game. What I did like is once I started, because I started doing it day 3. I mean, I was solving puzzles, but not collecting anything. And they actually had like separate small booths that were dedicated to anybody who was behind.
Mhm.
Mm,
And that was really nice because I don't think that's how it was,
mm-mm.
in 2024. You had, like you could only go to the one central place in 2024, no matter where you were in the story.
Yeah,
So this year was really nice. I got most of the story because of that.
that's nice.
So I hope they do it this year or next year.
I didn't love that it was locked behind days. Like you could only get so far on day
Mm.
1, you could only get so far on day 2, and so far on day 3. Like I did and I didn't. I did.
Mhm.
I liked that it spaced things out, that you couldn't have people just fly through on day 1 because of the issues that they had last year of running out of stuff. Knowing now
Yep.
in
Yeah.
hindsight that they are not going to run out of things, they had plenty, then I think they didn't need to do that. But mostly for other people, because we had some friends who had to leave early Saturday. So I don't know if they physically
Mhm.
had enough time to finish the day 3 stuff. And so I could see maybe if they just did it like locked behind day 1 and day 2, I don't know. But the day 3
Yeah.
stuff also was just less.
I know people were definitely doing the puzzles in advance. Like
Oh yeah,
even night
absolutely.
1, people were working on the puzzles for days 2 and 3. You just couldn't turn them in.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was thinking the exact same thing you said. It's like I like it and I didn't like it, but I like that there's a stop sign where it's like, okay, I finished the day 1 stuff. Now I don't have to obsess over the con game. I can do the other things that there are to do.
Yeah.
Honestly,
But there are downsides as well.
if I could give Dragonsteel just one thing to change, it would be to let people turn stuff in during the early access exhibitor hall hours,
Oh,
just to
yeah.
reduce the lines the rest of the day.
Yeah.
That
I
would-
didn't
Yeah.
even realize they weren't doing that. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, you had to have squires scheduled to be there
Right.
for the turn-ins, and given the restrictions on how many hours people can work,
Mhm.
there were
Mm.
limitations to
That makes sense.
to when they could have the stations open, because they're just because of payroll and
Right.
tax limitations, you needed to
Yeah.
stay under a certain number of hours or else you were going to have to pay Utah taxes, right? So
Nobody wants that.
nobody wants
Mhm.
to have to file 2 state tax returns. So, you know, it makes sense. It's
No, I
just
totally
it's
get
a
that.
limitation of the nature of, the setup. It is what it is.
Mhm.
Good point though about I think the biggest improvement over last year was they made sure they had enough prizes for all of the people who were going to finish, because I think some
Yeah.
people got killed over those pins last year when they ran out. Like
Oh
it's
my gosh.
ugh.
Yeah.
And I like that
Yeah.
they were all the same prize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
Yep.
a big question about that because it wasn't 2 years ago for the Defiant year. And afterward, you could buy it if you missed out. But I really appreciated that it was just all the same.
Mm.
I appreciate I wasn't chasing story cards like we had in 2024. I was up very late every single night in 2024, and because I felt less pressured to collect quote unquote things, it made for a much more relaxing con. Even
Mhm.
thinking about the things I had to do, it was much more relaxing to sit back and be like, "Oh, I'll get to the con game whenever I get to the con game."
Yeah.
So,
2024 was just like 2 con games at the same time, and that was rough.
yeah, it was. It's still a con game for some people.
Yeah.
Some people are still getting their story deck cards.
That's true.
It's true. There's
It's
still a thriving community for the Story Deck Bazaar.
Yep.
the plight
Yes.
the plight of being a collector of things and having that attitude where you want to collect things. It's
Yeah.
it's the downfall of assault.
Again, picking and choosing what you do and don't do.
Mhm.
Collect and
And
Yep.
with the story cards, if you don't collect them all, it's not like you're just missing fun trading card art. You're missing chunks of an actual story. So if you
Right.
don't
yeah.
have them all,
True.
you can't read the story.
Well,
Yeah.
now you can.
Although now
Now
it's
you
in book
can.
form.
Now you've
Oh,
got
Yeah.
book for two of them, and then the third one is coming in the Kickstarter, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
I assume, based on the fact that they're going to sell pins of the Chasm Friends, that the Chasm
Yeah.
Friends
Yes.
should be in
Right?
there. That would be hilarious if it
Exactly.
wasn't. All right. The next thing I have is you guys have mentioned several times World Swappers. Why don't you give the audience a rundown of that whole thing?
Oh, World Swappers. Where do we begin? I guess really it began in 2024, right? Because
Yeah.
it was just a thread on
Mhm.
the Sanderson Collectors Guild server, and a lot of us were like, "Hey, we should trade trinkets, and we should, find each other and do swaps, and it's just going to be a fun time." And we did, and
We
it
had
was a
about
blast. People
we had
came
50
home with,
people. 50
yeah, it was
people
about,
in like the weeks leading up, and then at
hmm
the convention, like by the 2 days before, I was making the "Can you find everybody" document. So the
yeah,
last minute additions, we had about 80 people by the time the convention started.
yeah, and that was a small enough number that we thought might be feasible for somebody to actually find every one of these people.
Yeah.
And so then we started planning for 2025. And I mean, we made a completely separate Discord server in January. We started planning at the beginning of the year, and we're already making plans for 2026.
Mhm.
And by the time we got to Nexus, we had close to 300 people who were
I think
actively
we were maybe at
participating, and
400.
there are over 500 people on the server.
Mhm.
And that was only 300 that had registered
Yeah,
with you guys, right?
right.
Yep.
So there are plenty of people
Right.
who had no idea we exist, but were bringing trinkets to trade just for the fun of it. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
I guess for a little bit more context, when I say we're trading trinkets, people were encouraged to either craft something small, or some people designed custom pins and ordered custom pins, or some people
Mhm.
just bought something off of Amazon that was small and easily tradable, but was relevant to a book. There's no, you know, buy in, there's no specific price point that we're trying to get people to hit. There's no monetary value in this that we wanted people to assign to the different items. We just wanted it to be, I make this thing, I think it's cool, I want to give it away.
Mhm.
Like, I just had badge ribbons because I knew I wasn't going to have time to do anything that was super involved. And it was perfectly fine. So yeah, we did a backer kit over the summer,
Sold
and
out
we
multiple
sold out
times.
the backer kit, and we
Yep.
extended it, and we sold out again, and we extended it, and we sold out again.
And
And
still had so many people saying, "Wait, I missed the backer kit. Oh no."
yeah, yeah. So we're
Mhm.
already trying to figure out how we're going to address that this year. But we collaborated with a vendor who had rented a couple of meeting rooms, and she was like, I think I'm actually only going to need one. Let me donate the other meeting room to
Mhm.
you. So shout out to Tess Campbell of Tessellation.
Hmm.
She let us use the other room, and the room was not big enough.
No. Oh my gosh.
It was
Well,
not even close to big enough.
well,
It was
especially
it
because
was
you also
incredible.
had the line for the early pickup stuff for
Yeah.
Carly's
Mhm.
hmm
Dragon Drop and stuff in
Doug.
there, or Doug Hunt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we thought, we'll just knock out two birds with one stone and make it easy for people. And next thing we knew, we had over 200 people who were lining the hallway
Mhm.
to come and pick up their stuff. And we were floored. We
It
did
was
not
incredible.
expect that kind of turnout. We thought that maybe 100 people would come and get their stuff. And it was awesome. And it was a true highlight to be wandering around the con and seeing people huddled together
Mhm.
and trading things.
Mhm.
I loved it.
It was so cool. And we had various meetups during the weekend,
Mhm.
so people could know that, okay, if I'm here at this time, I will find people to swap with. So I ran a couple of those, and it
And
was
those had
just
really good
so fun.
turnouts too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And people who hadn't heard of World Swappers but had brought stuff, and
Yep.
we let them know, hey, if you come, here's what time the meetup is. But then we also had our various swag that we had put together, and people had pre-ordered through the backer kit, and so you could identify people during the week to swap with them, and it was just so cool to see people's creativity and positivity. Like every interaction I had was positive, and even various exhibitors, I would start talking to them about it, and they'll go, oh yeah, no, I have heard of you. Or I, in my traditional signing with Isaac, and I was like, hey, have you heard of World Swappers? And he said, I have actually, but like, tell me some more about it. And so that was a cool interaction, and we bombarded Dan Wells on the last day and gave him a bunch of trinkets, let him know who we were. And it was just so, and everybody seemed so positive in how they had heard of us, and it was really cool to hear people's experiences as world swappers, of them being in a really low place, and then just conversation in the Discord leading up to the convention, helping them through that. And it was really cool.
Yeah.
Plus, it helped like a lot of single people who were coming maybe with nobody else to like join a community
Yeah.
and have an organic way to get to know people, or maybe it's not the right word, a structured way to get to know people, and then they could find their people and find their group.
Yeah, because they've been talking for months online, and so you finally get to the con, and it's like, yes, I saw you making this thing. I would love to trade with you. And they ended up talking, and I mean, even though the convention has been over for 2 months, there is chatter on the World Swapper server every day. Like, people are staying in touch. It's a very active community, even outside of, full-on convention time.
People are chatting about their ideas for this year's trinkets. People are talking about their cosplay ideas, whether it's for Dragonsteel or JordanCon or otherwise. And it's just so fun.
Oh my gosh! Speaking of, I just got the mock-up for the first item that I was gonna have for this year. You guys want to see? Hold on.
Oh, yes. Preview.
Share it in this chat here.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, another pin in the series.
Yes.
Oh, that's
have you had more
awesome.
pins? Like, have I missed out on something?
He had ruin and preservation pins.
Yeah, 2 this year, and I think I'm gonna do 2 for next year. So,
oh, man, I missed it.
See, that's part of the.
I was swapping with so many people, and I definitely didn't get this.
Yes, you'll
Or
come
get
home
the
and you realize, like, oh my gosh. Like, there are so many people who came home and realized other people came home with metal chopsticks. There was somebody who got magenta and teal chopsticks and was giving those away. I mean, they started making appearances in videos and pictures from people's swag hauls, and everybody was like, where did you get the chopsticks? Those are awesome.
oh, there was so much cool stuff, and like you said, it's not even it's not a price point thing. Like, there was somebody has the shipping spren that are just like little packing peanuts with faces drawn on them, and they're awesome.
Somebody had beads from Shadesmar.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was you. Okay, yeah. So that I have that, and I have it actually in my cup from the World Hopper Ball from 2024.
Yep.
It's of course Stormlight. So it's like it's together, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so fun.
I think that my favorite, like, just for the sheer creativity of it, is somebody had fabric that changes color when heat is applied. And they made little human shapes, like the little straw man from Warbreaker.
Oh, I love that. I didn't
put them
see that at
together
all.
so that it looks like a little doll, and if you breathed on it, it changed color.
That's
which
amazing.
is just so on theme for Warbreaker. It was genius.
Yeah.
Somebody did that with sand.
Yeah, there's color changing sand too.
Yeah, for the investiture from White Sands.
Amazing. The variety is just incredible. You'd think with all these people chatting about ideas leading up to it, there would be a lot of similarities, but it really is amazing to see the variety.
Yeah. I don't really feel like I came home with much in the way of duplicates at all.
I like that you had the same idea as me, though, that my goblet from the World Hopper Ball last year is also full. I put a bunch of different trinkets in there. Yeah, it's sitting on the shelf full of trinkets. It's a perfect spot for that.
Yes.
Yep.
But Yes, I did 2 shard pins last year, and I'm gonna try, I think, to do 2 this year. But in my case, they all have the name of this podcast on the back, which means that it is a promotional expense that comes out of our Patreon funds.
Oh,
So
Nice.
I
Very nice.
thank you, patrons.
Woo woo.
You're awesome.
Shout out
We
to the
appreciate
patrons.
you.
Yeah.
You're the best.
But that actually leads nicely into the next thing that I had was the World Hopper Ball. So I went last year, which was the first year. 2024 was the first year they did the World Hopper Ball, and it was the theme last year was Shalon and Adelyn's wedding,
Mhm.
and it costs a decent amount of money to go, and you need to make sure you have some nice enough clothes, whether it's cosplay or normal nice clothes to go. But it was an experience that I was interested in. Personally, I didn't find it as enjoyable enough that I wanted to pay even more this year to do it again. But I know that I mean, Cassie went to all of the sessions this year, and
I
I know
did.
Jerika also mentioned that she went last
Mhm.
year and this year. I don't know, Sam, did you?
I did both.
Okay, well then y'all are the perfect people to have to tell them about the World Hopper Ball and the improvements from last year to this year and all that sort of thing.
I can go first. So,
Yeah, I think you guys
did you want to go
who
first,
came as
Casey?
attendees should go first.
Okay. Yeah. So I went to both 24 and 25. 24, I enjoyed. Like you. I was like, I don't know that I really want to go again. It was expensive the first year. And then we started seeing sneak peeks about it was Mistborn themed this year. And I was like, no, no, that's my favorite book. I don't want to go this year. And I think we already knew the pricing at that point.
Mhm.
And I was like, I told my husband, I said, if it is Mistborn, we're gonna have to go. It's my favorite book. It's Arrow One. It's my favorite. And he was like, he and I were both back and forth on it. Well, then of course it was. And I was like, well, we're going. No question about it. So we went to session one, and it I felt like it was a lot better. They had made a lot of adjustments from the Stormlight one to the Mistborn one, as far as like building up platforms that way everybody could see from anywhere in the room. There there was actually some entertainment that engaged the guests that I really, really, really did enjoy as well. And then this space was a lot larger. It felt much less crowded. I mean, it was still a lot of people, but much less crowded. And then I really think they brought it together well. We didn't notice a whole lot of hiccups where we had heard in session one for Stormlight, there were hiccups. They seem to have like tied almost everything so neatly for session one that we didn't feel like it was a session one.
Nice.
So it was much more
That's
enjoyable.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
very
I was
glad to hear that.
tempted. Like you said, Mistborn, like the Final Empire is probably my favorite Brandon book, maybe because it was my first one. So when I found out like this is Ball of the Final Empire, I was like, I'm tempted to push the button
Yeah.
on it, but I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Like I said, it was the one that I had to have Brandon sign. And funny thing is, when I had him sign it, he put the inscription and then didn't actually sign the book.
Oh no.
So then when I got home, I was heartbroken because I had like, we had done this whole experience for Mistborn, and then I ended up having to send it back to Dragonsteel to have him sign it. But the ball just being Arrow One, just being for everything from the first one to Hero of Ages, like I thoroughly enjoyed it. If it's anything else next year, I'll hesitate to push that button, but because it was Mistborn, it's just my
Mhm.
favorite.
So for people, I guess also who don't know much about it, this is it's a full on. While there you got the guests can dance and eat and drink or whatever. There's a full on. There's actors acting out the various things. Like when I went, you had Dalinar and Shalon and Yasna and all these people like acting out the whole event. And you even got, if you went that year, Wind and Truth had come out, but if you hadn't read it yet, there's the little thing that happens during the
Mhm.
wedding that
Yeah.
Mhm.
you wouldn't
Yeah,
have known about that actually
and
shows up in the live
that
performance. So.
and that was us learning about it in real time because none of us had had time to
Yeah.
Mhm.
actually read the book yet.
Right.
No, how
Right.
could you have? Jeez.
Yeah, so we're in the ball and we're all watching this specific scene play out, and we're just like, wait, the theories were true? It
That was
Oh
fun.
yeah.
fantastic.
So tell me about the performance this year, since I didn't get to go. I'm curious. I didn't get to
Yeah.
go. I chose not to go. I'm curious what the performance was like this year.
So they did some back and forth, they had Vin going to the ball and meeting Ellen, and then at the end it was the whole fight between Vin and Shalon, not Shalon, Shan.
That would have been a
And
very
then
different book, Vin and Shalon.
no,
Yeah.
not Shalon. It's funny.
Spoilers?
Vin and
Alternate
Shan.
universe.
Oh, yeah, alternate universe. And then they also had an interaction where you could get spiked, so to speak, because you would walk in and you would get a metal card, and so then you were basically a misting. So you got to interact in that regard too, and then the dance. I'll let Jerika talk about the dance, but it was just elevated, and then you're of course in your ball clothes. Like, it is a real formal ball. Like they said, like, don't come as a Bridge 4 member. Make sure you're wearing nice clothes. You're going to a Scadrial ball at a manor, so you need to dress like it. So it wasn't it you couldn't really scrape by, like, you if you were coming in some sort of cosplay, like, there were a lot of miscloaks, but a lot of people dress nicely under cloaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, a large part of the reason I decided not to go this year is it's just a hassle to get my actual suit there and not end up all wrinkled after the plane trip and stuff. And I was like, it'll be so much easier if I don't need to take a suit to wear. So
That's fair.
Fair.
What was that, Cassie?
I just thought it was amazing how they had so much more atmosphere this year. Like Sam said, the room was so much bigger. They built the entire set from ground up on basically loaded everything in on Tuesday and we're doing construction all day Wednesday and up until about before ball began. Like
wow.
I was throwing tablecloths on tables, 30 minutes before people came in the room. So it was a very limited time frame. But you walked in there and you didn't feel like you were in a convention center. They built walls. They had these
Stained glass
beautiful
windows.
backlit windows that looked like stained glass. They had screens on the stage that had they stained glass windows most of the time, but then during the fight with Shan and Vin, shatters and falls, and you see smoke, and it was incredibly dynamic. But with the atmosphere also, like, they had a live string quartet that was in there playing at the very beginning, and they were beautiful. And then trained ballroom dancers that came in and helped teach everyone a dance that had, I think it was 4 stanzas in this poem. And the choreographer is a fan, and he wrote this beautiful poem and came up with choreography to teach everybody. And then these ballroom dancers led everyone through the movement. And these are people, some of them have won like national championships. They're very, very talented dancers, and we got to see them perform. And I just thought the sheer caliber of everything was doubled, tripled from what it was in 2024. And it's just so exciting to think, how they're going to up the ante each time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was very impressed by all of the decorations and the scene and the actors and the fight and the choreography of the fight and launching people into the air and the
aerialists. They were doing combat, holding, I don't even know what you call it. It wasn't like silks. It wasn't that kind of aerialists, but it was they were up in the air and they were a good 20 feet off the ground for that fight scene. It was really cool.
That's really cool. And then, yeah, like you said, they had that choreographer do. That was definitely a big difference this year from last year. Is I felt like that was their big, like, this is a ballroom dance, and so we're gonna teach you a dance. But also cool that it was something brand new that people who do or don't have experience, it doesn't matter. You're all starting fresh with learning this dance. And that it was Mistborn themed and relating to the world and the volcanoes and the ash, and
Yeah.
you could do it. Yeah, that was really cool.
And Sazed was teaching you?
Yeah, Seiza was walking around. He ended up
Mhm.
not being the one to call out the actual movements just because it
Mhm.
was so much. So the actual choreographer led everybody through that, but Sazed was then walking around and helping position people, and I saw him dance with a couple of people who were there by themselves. So that was fun.
Oh,
Cool.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. He was taking care of everybody backstage and
Aw.
making sure
That's
they
so
were
cool.
hydrated, and it was really sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You mean like a real steward, huh?
Like a real steward, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've now done Roshar and Scadrial. And any predictions? What are we going to end up with next year? Or is
Oh,
this
Oh,
year
I thought I saw
technically?
Sal.
Can I throw something in real quick before?
yes.
Go for it.
One of the other differences that I didn't anticipate this year was that, like, last year the ball was an event. Like, it was the wedding reception for Shalana and Adolin. But this year it was, the premise was Kelsier and Hoyd, and like Kelsier just telling Hoyd the story. And so we would do this scene, and then we would kind of fast forward in time and do this scene, and then fast forward in time and do this scene. So I think that that was unexpected for me, and I really enjoyed it. It still felt like a whole story without there being like, well, how many good opportunities are there going to be at Miss, like, in Scadrial? So that's also kind of shifted my, leading to your question, like shifted my perspective on possibilities for future years. That it doesn't just have to be, there was an event that this could be surrounding.
Mm,
Oh, I cried all over again.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be canon.
Yeah. I
'Cause-
definitely cried all over again when we
Mhm.
went through the ending. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
bring me
Yeah,
back. You bring me
because
back."
too.
they gave us an alternate ending, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much, but it was almost more
It was beautiful.
heartbreaking than the
Yeah.
ending to Hero of Ages, and it was
wow.
so funny. Every night I would be sitting there off to the side as it drew to a close, and I would just be watching the audience for when a very specific line was stated, and just watching the audience was fantastic because every show, everyone had the same reaction of just
Mhm.
having their hearts ripped out when Sazed said
Mhm.
one particular line. And yeah,
It was
it
beautiful.
was so beautiful. It was so well done.
You said an alternate ending and heartbreaking, and I was like, does Shan kill Vin? Like, that would be a bold move.
No, no, I don't. I mean, there's videos all over the internet,
Mhm.
so you can go look it up if you really want. But let's say it's a much happier ending.
Okay, fair. I feel like now that you say that, that it was Kelsier telling a story to Hoy. I feel like telling story. Maybe it's just because that's a Brandon thing in general. But I feel like that was a big theme of the entire convention because we had the con game. Like you would go and they would be telling you like the story that you were part of, and you'd be drawing out these tokens and stuff. And some of those guys got real into the storytelling of it. And then Brandon had his big announcement about like the Hoyd storybook series that's going to be kickstarting here in a couple weeks. So
Mhm.
very thematic.
Yeah, I think, Jerika mentioned it earlier, but that whole be a part of the story thing, they
Yeah.
took it to heart.
They
Yeah.
really did.
Which
Yeah.
I'm so much happier with be a part of the story than there's always another secret.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a
100%.
much more uplifting theme.
Yeah.
One I had that I wanted to touch on was the merchandise. There's always cool merch that debuts at the convention, and I was just curious, you guys, did any of you have merchandise that you absolutely had to get at the convention? They actually, in previous years, the store line has always been the worst line of all because everyone wants to get into that store, and it wasn't so bad this year. I was really impressed. I don't know how they did that.
Yeah, I don't think I waited to get in line at the Dragonsteel store at all.
Nope, me either. I went in there 2 or 3 times, and it was just walking straight in.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think there was once I had to wait like 2 minutes. It was nominal, not a big deal. But the line to check out
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
seemed like it was longer, but it actually didn't take nearly as long time-wise to get through.
Mhm.
I did go in. I'll say the one thing that I made a beeline for when we got in there was we knew that there were a very limited number of signed secret projects in the store. And so we ran and made sure that we got those. So now we
Very
have
nice.
a full set of signed secret projects, which is super cool.
Nice.
And I made sure to grab the Else Collar and
Yeah.
Lopin book because I also wanted to get that signed by Isaac and Dan.
That was my big one. We got a few copies of that.
Yeah, and then I picked up the new pins, and that was
Yep.
really about it.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm a pin person, so I went for all of the pins.
There were
Yep.
so many. Oh,
There's so many
What, there were like
pins.
12 this year, 15 this year?
I don't know. I know that I have not purchased all of them. I'm still not caught up.
they had all the Sander shelf ones.
Those are the
Which-
ones I haven't bought yet.
Okay.
There was at least
I didn't
7
buy
of those
those.
packs. And then what the new
All of
New
Series
character
3.
pins. Mhm, series pins.
Yeah.
including the new double character pin from Miles of the Emberdark.
Yeah.
Had 2 in
Mhm.
there, so yeah, lots
Oh,
of
the
lots of cool
seam
stuff.
pins. The seam
Oh,
pins
and the
for the
seam
balls
pins.
were really pretty. I mean,
Cool.
not
Those,
officially
yeah.
associated with the ball, but those are really pretty.
yeah, those are gorgeous.
And the ball pin that was the stained glass
glass
window.
window.
That was also
Mhm.
pretty.
I think the biggest thing we also made a beeline for were the glasses.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the
So,
tumblers.
yeah, they had the normal rendition, which we actually liked better because it had different colors
More
for the
colorful, yeah.
different seals
Mhm.
instead of the VIP, which all of those were blue at the bottom, where this one had like a blue for Stormlight and red for Mistborn,
Mm-hmm.
and was it green for Cell
Yeah.
and purple for
I think it may have been green for
Warbreaker
Lumar.
and Malthus.
yeah,
and
for
green for
Warbreaker.
Trust.
Yeah.
Lumar.
Yeah.
I kind of agree. I got the VIP ones because I got it's not VIP. They stopped doing VIP. It was the premium
Yeah.
whatever. That's what I got, so I didn't buy more of them, but I kind of agree that I like the multiple colors better.
I did too. I didn't come home with any of them, but I liked the standard ones.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that the premium seemed a lot more, is it monochrome or whatever,
Yeah,
where it was only like
monochrome.
monochrome, whereas the colorful stuff actually felt better. Like to me, I liked it better,
More.
which is not always the case, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was trying to think of anything else.
I think for me the pins and the Else Collar / King Lopin book were the big items, and it was like I have to get these things. They were
We did also end up getting one of the holiday sweaters and one of the sweatshirts so that we could try them on from their like sample rack, so we could really know which size. Especially because I think the Mistborn ones in particular, the neck's tighter on those. So I really wanted to be able to try one on and see
I got one of the Mistborn ones, and the neck is pretty cinched in there.
Yeah.
So did you find one that you liked when you got to try them on?
Yeah, I did the like Cosmere like night sky with the constellations.
Oh, nice.
I have that one.
I was excited for that when I saw it.
I like
I
that
like
it's a subtle Cosmere thing, and it fit better, I felt like.
I feel like the Mistborn one still looks like the most like ugly Christmas sweater classic style one to me.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
and I'm actually not a fan of the design on the Tress one personally.
I was gonna say I like the dress one. It's green, and so that's a very Christmas color, or a holiday season color. And so that one, I can understand. I don't own it. I like Jerika said, I really like the subtlety of the blue one. But if I were to buy another one, it would probably be the Tress one.
I think the Tress one, like the whole bottom half is those like vertical lines, and that's all. And the lines I don't like.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think the Mistborn one is all like it looks like falling ash at the bottom, right?
Oh, it
I don't know
does.
if there's a lot to it at the bottom.
I actually hadn't put that together. I just thought it was like speckled or whatever. But you're totally right. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's funny. Last thing that I had that I wanted to talk about. Let's just. Do you guys have any tips for people who are interested in going to the convention? Just any sort of tips overall related to the convention that you would want to share.
Oh, hold on. Let me pull up the guide I made.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, go, Cassie. I'll give a couple while you're pulling it up if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
The biggest one that I know but also forget about in the moment, so I will just really emphasize, is to eat food.
Mhm.
Like bring snacks, have a game plan ahead of time for food, and because there's plenty of options there. In the
Yep.
convention center, they've got various vendors, but
And there's some
sometimes
very
the
good
moment that
food
you're
there.
hungry, the line is really long, or you're in the middle of a panel or whatever. So bring snacks, bring some granola bars. Our first year, we were really trying to save money on a trip, and so we did like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that we made in the hotel room and brought with us. And that was honestly so nice because then we could just eat whenever we wanted and we didn't have to wait for a line.
Yeah, and the food is not cheap. So
Mm-mm.
No.
there
Even
is a
going
grocery
up,
store just a couple
yeah.
blocks away.
Yeah.
There's actually several restaurants within a couple of blocks as well, but this is
Mhm.
Yeah.
downtown Salt Lake, so they are not like the inexpensive restaurants.
They are not.
Well, I think you
Usually,
can have Walmart deliver to the hotel as well.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
nice. Usually we end up going to the food court in the mall so that it's not like convention center pricing and have a couple more options. But that's
Yeah.
still a
Mhm.
walk over there when you've been
Mhm.
walking all day and you're tired and it takes more time and it's more expensive. So,
Yeah,
just other
city.
there are other options.
Something not to underestimate for people who have not been to Salt Lake is blocks there are much bigger than city blocks that you are probably used to.
Yes.
So something
Yes.
being 2 blocks away, it's a while to get there.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not as
Yeah.
close as it sounds. The other thing that people who are not from Salt Lake get caught off guard by is the lack of humidity. And
Yeah.
Yes.
I live in Kentucky. It's humid as heck here all the time. And I went to Salt Lake and I had brought lotion, I had brought chapstick, and my hands were still cracked and bleeding by the time we left.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I'll
My
throw
hands are
in,
still cracked now.
I'm from Arizona. It is drier in Utah than it is in Arizona. Like,
Wow.
it's dry. Come
Wow.
for that. Yes, my hands get dry as well.
hmm Chapstick, lotion, and a cheap labeled water bottle that you will not be upset about if you leave it behind, because I left mine behind like 2 or 3 times. Thankfully, managed to get home with it this time. Last year I did not, and they found it and had to mail it back to me. But
Oh, well, that was nice that they did that.
Wow.
yeah, the Lost and Found will ship things home to you afterward if you can prove that it's yours. You have to pay shipping, of course, but they will send you your items.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
I
So
think my big tip is like pick your thing. Like go in with like maybe 2 things that you're gonna focus on, but be prepared that you're not gonna get everything. Like it's just not possible.
definitely not. Yeah. Although along the lines of having your thing, you mentioned your thing this year was signatures, and if you are packing your books and wanting to bring your books with you, number one, you can wrap them in your clothes, right, to keep them protected. But the prep, if you can take some prep time before you pack them up and put in post-it notes with the
Yes,
visible
Yes.
name of the person who is supposed to sign
absolutely.
that book and put that post-it note on that page where they are supposed to sign, it will
Yep.
save you a tremendous amount of time. Because some of the people, if they're a very popular signing line, the staff who are getting you ready are going to pull you aside when you get close and have to go through your book and do that anyway.
Yep, they did.
And so if
Mhm.
you just have it done already by the time you get there, that just makes the line move faster for everybody.
And I had
Yeah.
a couple people willing to sign more because they saw that I had done that. They're like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can
Yep.
sign 2 or 3 of yours in the time I can sign 1 with somebody else's."
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Mhm.
that's nice. The only signing I ended up with was Matt Dinneman. My wife and I actually both got Matt Dinneman signings, but we got our 2 books signed in the first one and gave the other one to somebody else who did not get one. But they did that exactly, like, make sure you have the page marked right here so you can turn right to it, and they're also selling his books in the line. I don't know, did they do that for other authors? Like, have books that you could
Oh,
buy on the way in?
Wow,
no,
Yeah.
I never saw that.
I never saw that.
At the different booths they did, like if they were at a publisher's booth,
Mm,
but not I didn't see that at like a Dragonsteel directed signing.
Interesting. So
Gotcha.
maybe that was the only one. But yeah, it was a Dragonsteel signing for him, and they had
Interesting.
a couple ladies come up with a cart of his books and taking credit card right there in the line, so you
Oh
could
my
buy them and get them
gosh.
signed.
That's amazing. I feel like you gotta make good business there if you're like, hey, actually, he's willing to sign 2 books. If you only
Yeah.
brought one.
Yep.
Yeah, my wife wasn't even going to get hers a book signed until we saw that, and I was like, "Here, I will buy you a book. You can get it signed." It was technically her signing that we went to, so
Okay.
I was like, "Well, you got to get something signed. Come on."
Yeah. I think
Oh.
leaving room to pack for merch, like, don't overestimate what you're gonna bring, or don't underestimate what you're gonna bring home, because you will bring home more than
Mhm.
you expect.
Yes.
Or things will come home, things you buy
Mhm.
will be much bigger than you thought they were.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chol plushies.
Chol plushies.
Oh my
Chol
gosh,
plushie.
yes.
Or goblets,
Oh,
the
Chol
World
McGinnis.
Hopper ball
Goblets!
goblets.
That was a rough
They were
year, man.
enormous.
Oh my
Yeah.
The
god.
goblets plus the plushies plus Wind and Truth. Whew.
2024
So
gave us all PTSD.
something
Well,
we
gave the
actually
airport people PTSD.
Oh yeah, poor the airport people. The other thing we did is when we realized that there was not enough room in our suitcase, there's a Macy's not outlet, but like backstage, and they have suitcases for cheap. And it was actually cheaper to buy a suitcase and ship it home with us on the flight than it would have been for us to walk over to UPS, buy a box, pack
Yeah.
it, pay for shipping, and then
Yep.
wait
Wow.
for it. Like I told my husband, I was like, next time we're just gonna pay the extra little bit for another checked bag, because it
Yeah.
ends up being about the same, and then I don't have to worry about waiting for it, hoping that UPS gets it and doesn't damage it, or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, we use a similar trick. We fly over with one bag, one
Mm,
checked bag. But inside the checked bag is a duffel. And
Mhm.
then while we are there, our dirty clothes end up in the duffel. So
yep.
we're keeping the room clean, more or less. And
Yeah.
then all of our new stuff goes into the check bags, the carry-on, anything we don't want to be separated from us goes in the carry-ons, of course,
Yeah.
like any of the really expensive books and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Leather bounds.
Leather bounds. Yeah.
Mm.
And then, yeah, we come home checking 2 bags. But like you said, Sam, it's way cheaper to just check a second bag than it is to ship
Mhm.
anything home.
Yeah, we shipped a box that was roughly like 12 inches tall, 14 inches wide, and then maybe 13 inches, 14 inches long. And with the weight of it, which not a lot really fits in that, it was still $42, and we could have paid $50 and had a large, had another luggage, full-size
Yep.
luggage, to have sent stuff home and not been like worried about weight and trying to like be under that 50-pound mark, or worried about like, oh, is this too big, or anything like that. So I agree. Checking one small luggage inside of it and like kind of faking it in that regard was definitely a way to go. Or picking up a luggage from the Macy's backstage back lot, whatever it's called.
Also, good advice if you're going to Disney World. That's what we have to do when we go there. So
Yeah.
Nice. We also
Yeah.
do the duffel bag thing. It's awesome.
The other thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is you're not limited just to the hotels that are right there next to the convention center.
It's true.
Obviously, everybody knows you can stay further away and Uber in, but there is a tram in Salt Lake City, and there is a section that's a fare-free zone. And if your hotel is close to that free fare zone, you don't have to pay to use the tram, and you
Mhm.
don't have to pay for an Uber. You can just hop on the tram, go to the convention center, and get
Yeah.
back to your hotel later.
And it
So
runs decently often.
it runs decently
It does.
often. It runs fairly late,
Yeah.
and it's a really easy way to, if you want to stay a little further away from the convention center to save money on your hotel, you can do that without having to figure out separate transportation.
Yeah, we always take it from the airport. It's nice. Not
Yeah.
free from
Yeah.
the airport, but still.
Is it the green or the blue? I think that, yeah, it's like $6 from the
Yeah.
airport to get to the convention center, or
Yeah.
hotels, around the convention center.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
don't
that
waste
sounds right.
don't waste your money on Ubering. in that for that.
If I can give another big tip, comfort is king. Comfortable shoes
Mhm.
in particular. You don't have to wear, for example, nice shoes to the ball. You just
Nope.
don't. It's not worth it. I've worn tennis shoes both times. I've brought nice shoes both times and then said, no, not worth it. Like,
Yep.
wear something
Nobody's gonna
comfortable.
see them under your dress anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to match your cosplay during the day. Like, just wear comfortable shoes and have a comfortable cosplay because if you're bringing a cosplay, because you're going to be in it all day walking around. It's just exhausting.
Yeah.
Also, in the terms of comfort, important to note that this is December in Salt Lake City. It will be cold
Uh-huh.
outside. It will not necessarily be cold inside.
Yeah.
So be prepared for this shift.
Wear layers.
Then there are options like the convention center had a coat check this year, or there's Carly's Dragon Drop Off where you could leave coats and things
Very useful.
for those layering options.
Yeah, Dragon Drop Off is a lifesaver if you don't want to make multiple trips back up to your room. Just
Yeah.
you got a box, it's right there in the vendor hall. Throw stuff in it all day. Grab it at the end. Fantastic.
Shout out to Dragon Woodshop.
Woo!
Yes.
Yes.
Carly, super sweet lady. We've plugged her store on here before. I don't generally use Dragon Drop Off because I am staying in one of the hotels right there. So I'm just like, I'll walk up to my room. It's fine.
Sure.
But it was even
We
useful
use it
for
a
me this
lot.
year because there was times where it's like I'd set up to trade something with a person or buy something and they're like, I'll put it in my box. You can go and I'll give you permission to get it out of my box and
Yep.
you can leave
Yep.
what you're trading me in there. And it's just convenient in lots of ways to have something right there in the middle of the convention floor that is used for storage.
I think particularly if you're doing signature.
I did that too. And I would also I'd also look at the schedule for the day and be like, okay, I'm leaving the room at 8 a.m. Oh,
Yeah.
we have a signing at 2. And then we have
Mhm.
another signing at 4. And then I've got my ball shift starting at 4:30, whatever, however it worked. And so I would throw like a change of clothes in there, or I would throw in, the books that were not getting signed for hours because I didn't want to carry them around all
Yes.
morning, but I didn't
Fair.
necessarily want to have to make a trip back up to the room either.
Yeah,
So
it's so helpful if you're doing signatures. You get it signed first thing
Yeah.
and it just sits there, or vice versa. Yeah.
yeah, even if you're staying close by, it's still a lifesaver.
Yeah. Lifesaver for your back.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you have lots of books, especially you got like 5 signings, then that could be a whole lot of books you're trying to. It's like being back in high school. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, backpacks are great, but they also murder on your neck and shoulders.
Yeah, I brought a cart this year and I'm not sure that I would do it again because it did put a lot of or it took up a lot of space in my luggage. So I think if I
Mhm.
were to go
Same.
back through, I would just go ahead and do the drag and drop off because you're right. It would have been a lot easier just to stop in, grab my books that I needed, and then jet back out when I was done.
Smart move. Okay, any other final tips before we wrap up?
I don't think so.
If you want more tips, go and follow the Dragonsteel Nexus subreddit. We'll
I was
post
going
all
to
the
say that
tips
if you
there.
didn't. Yeah, there you
Or
go.
Collectors Guild.
Or Collectors
Yeah.
Guild Discord if you want a place to actively chat. Yeah. And World
There
Swappers
is.
if you want to connect with people to trade trinkets with.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
about to say I can put the World Swappers link in the description for the video if you like. I didn't know if you wanted a
Ooh.
bunch of random people joining all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll figure out roles and stuff later.
Mhm. We do
Cool.
tend to lock things as we get close to the convention to attendees. So just
Yeah.
FYI, anybody who wants to join, you're welcome to join.
Sure.
We talk about crafts and cosplays, but just a note as we get closer to the convention.
It is a nice place just for chatting about crafts and cosplays.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
is.
All right. Well then, final before we say goodbye, do you guys have anything that you want to plug? Your projects, your socials, whatever.
I don't do a lot on socials or projects. I'm just here to have fun. So I guess I'll plug the
Nice.
Sanders Guild, the Collectors Guild, I mean.
There you go. Collectors Guild is a great place to hang out. Like I said, I'm on TikTok and Instagram as frugal.fantasy, and I don't post a whole lot, but I'm always up for chatting about the convention. And I hope to grow the Dragonsteel Nexus subreddit later this year, and of course, World Swappers, and just make those big community resources as best we can.
Yeah. And you can find me at Cosmere Carmen on Instagram. I just made my account, so there's not a ton on there, but I like chatting about projects and crafts, so feel free to chat with me about that. It's a fun time.
Nice. Okay, well, I want to thank you guys for coming on and sharing your knowledge and experience of the con with the listeners. Hopefully, we can all manage to get tickets this year. I meant to talk about that, but it was we don't know for sure, but the assumption is that it will be a raffle for the tickets again this year because I feel like they felt like it worked really well last year.
Yeah.
So who knows who will end up getting to go to the convention this year?
Yeah.
We can all hope.
Cross all your fingers and toes.
Right? So thank you guys. We appreciate you. Remember, listeners, next week we're going to be back into the books and we will be reading the next 7 chapters of Tress of the Emerald Sea, which should be chapters 37 through 43. So if you're reading along, do those chapters for next time. If you'd like to send us an email, the podcast, the address is thesanderlanch@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Facebook and Patreon, where I am still posting my reactions as I read through Isles of the Emberdark for the first time. So if you don't get enough of hearing me talk on this podcast, you can listen to more of that over on our Patreon. And if you join the Patreon, Joe will assign you a faring power, which people always appreciate. So check that out if you're interested in that. Otherwise, 7 chapters for next time. Music by Miracle of Sound, and Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Vasher. Crabs ahoy!
But when you're bitter and tired, your voices are mute, we